open the pod bay doors.
Greetings and welcome to another exciting episode of the Cinematic Traveler podcast. I am your intrepid movie exploring host, Chris, and on this episode, I am going to be bringing you my review for the much demanded sequel to the classic 2000 hit film Gladiator, directed by Ridley Scott. This, of course, being Gladiator 2, also directed by Ridley Scott. And I cannot wait to get this film alone in the ring and stick my sword deep inside of it. Ooh, that doesn't sound quite right. Moving on. But before I get into my review, let me bring you a message from the sponsor of this podcast. That would be yours truly. If you could please, whatever you're listening to this podcast on, give me a rating. Also, follow, subscribe, so you can always keep up with each new episode. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you could spread the word for me, it's another thing I would appreciate. Tell your friends, family, enemies, anyone you can think of, just general people walking past the street. If you have a strange crush on someone and you need an excuse to go talk to them, here is your excuse. You can just walk up and say, hey, I got this great podcast I'd really love for you to listen to. Tell me what you think. I've already started you on the path of love. So at least you could do is give me a little bit of help here. Also, if you would like to follow me on my only social media at the moment, you can follow me on Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod. And you can get in touch with me and follow me. And there, I got through that quick, fast, and in a hurry so we can dive into this episode. Before we do, and as I like to do on every episode, let me ask you how you're doing, my beloved listener, just real quick. I know we're rushing into the week. This is actually a short week here in the United States of America as we got Thanksgiving coming up. And now you have something else to talk about at your family Thanksgiving dinner. Here, you can not talk about politics because nobody wants to do that. But you could bring up that you've listened to this new podcast and you're really excited to share it with everybody. Who doesn't love listening to someone ramble on about movies? But hopefully you have some big plans and you're going to get together with your family and loved ones. And don't talk politics. Whatever you do, just don't talk politics. As for me, I am just super excited to be talking about this movie, here talking to you again because I just like talking movies, especially with you. Just you, not everybody else, just you. Aren't you special? So let's go ahead and get on with it. Now, let me remind you of the rules again. I will give you a spoiler-free plot synopsis as well as a spoiler-free review. In my spoiler-free plot synopsis, I have hidden two movie quotes from different movies, although sort of similar vein or at least kind of in the realm of what this movie is or related in some way, shape, or form. If you can get in touch with me again on Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod, just DM me, let me know where these movie quotes are from, just the movie where they're from. You get a point. At the end of the month, I add up everybody's points, and whoever wins gets to tell me what movie to review probably in the next month. So you'll get a special fan episode. How exciting. You get to participate in the show. That was amazing. I've already got a few people on the list and some have a commanding lead right now. So you better jump on. You can always go back as well as listen to previous episodes this month and get your points that way. But once we start December, it starts all over again. So now that I have caught you up on all the audience participation time stuff, let me go ahead and give you again my spoiler-free plot review. So with Gladiator 2, we join the little boy from the first movie, Lucius, some 16 years later after the first movie. He is played now as an adult by Paul Mescal. And he's left Rome, he is in hiding, but he's living a good life. He's in an African city with his wife. And like I said, they're enjoying their life together and they're being all loving. Yeah, so because you know what's going to happen next. And what happens next is the Romans show up. Damn them Romans. They are led by General Acacius, and I know I'm going to butcher a lot of these names. He is played by Pedro Pascal. And the Romans quickly conquer this city, killing Lucius's wife in the process, and then they take him prisoner. Upon returning to Rome, he is forced to fight as a gladiator, where he catches the eye of Macrinus, played by Denzel Washington. I know I apologize. I am an American living in the South, so my accent will get in the way with a lot of these words. I can barely speak English, as you can tell. Well, Mark Curious. That's funny. That makes me laugh. He sees an opportunity to use Lucius's skills as a gladiator to gain power in the Roman leadership. But unbeknownst to, here it comes, Marcius, there is a revolt beginning to settle in Rome. against these crazy two emperors. And this revolt is led by a few senators and other people, including General Cassius, who riles up other citizens into this revolt by telling them, apart from sanitation, medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, the freshwater system, and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us? Now, Lucius's mother from the first film, Lucilla, played by Connie Nielsen, sees this revolt as an opportunity for Lucius to not only gain his freedom, but claim his rightful place as ruler of Rome. Now you may be asking, does Lucius succeed, or does, here it comes, Marcius, manipulate his way to the top and bring everyone in Rome to their knees? You may also be asking, Joey, do you like Gladiator movies? Well, I won't spoil your first two questions, and as for your third, I feel a little bit awkward as my name is Chris, not Joey, and that's a weird question to ask. But I will let you know if I like this Gladiator movie in my brilliant review. So, sliding into my review here, again, I will let you know I break my reviews down into three segments: the good, the bad, and the nitpicky. The good are the things that I like in the movie, the bad, obviously, things that I don't, and the nitpicky, things that are neither good nor bad, just little things in movies that seem to make me laugh, little Hollywoodisms, or just weird things that pop into my head that I'm going to try to make you laugh and entertain you.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
That's not the movie quote. That's from the first Gladiator. You don't get any points for that. All right, so let's move into the good or the positive of this film. First of all, I mean, it's Ridley Scott. The guy can't make an ugly looking movie, and his trend continues here. This is a beautiful movie. All of the action scenes are engrossing, they're intense. He paces them well to where, you're kind of on the edge of your seat, especially I really like the water battle they have in the Colosseum with the gladiators battling it out and sharks, and it was a really schlocky moment, but I enjoy that kind of stuff, and it seems like Ridley was really having fun with that. But apart from that, just the details, it continues what he did in the first movie, with the Roman, uniforms and all the clothes that people wear and just how the city is for that time. You really buy into this world again. And like I said, Ridley Scott, he can't make a movie where you're like, oh, this is ugly. Everything he does is beautiful to watch. And that's why he keeps getting movies made. I can question some of the plot and everything we'll get to later, but as far as just the look of the film, it is a good looking film. Let's see what other positives can I come up with in this movie. Really, outside of that, Denzel Washington, he's great and everything, one of our best actors ever. So it's kind of stupid to say, oh, Denzel's really good in this movie, but I think he plays it right because he kind of understands what this movie is. It's really schlock, just dressed up as a pretentious movie, and he's having a good time with it. And you can tell he's having fun. It's nice to see him in this kind of role, a little bit different, kind of playing this manipulator. He's kind of evil and he's out for himself and he has his reasons and all that. So it was kind of fun to see him sink his teeth into something like this. So unfortunately for this movie, that kind of wraps up the good. Let's go ahead and move into the bad or the negative. I've said this earlier. I made a joke about this being a highly demanded sequel. Obviously, like I said, that was a joke. This is a sequel that nobody wanted. It was not necessary. I don't think anybody after the first movie was clamoring for a Gladiator 2. The first movie wrapped up perfectly with Russell Crowe joining his wife and child in the afterlife. It was just a perfectly paced and shot. Everything was great in that movie. That's why it won the Oscar. And then you followed up with this, which is basically the same movie, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. That Lucius, the little boy from the first one, would have followed the exact same steps as Russell Maximus from the first movie. It's the same beats. He gets captured, he gets trained, he catches the eye of the person who wants more power, and then he becomes a great gladiator. And then it turns out everybody finds out who he is, and then there's that revolt. I think in the first movie there was kind of a revolt that was going to happen, but they couldn't set Maximus free, and it got found out. It's kind of the same exact thing. So you don't really feel the same either emotional connection to the characters or really the investment in the movie because you've seen it before. This is one of the worst kind of sequels where they just take the same movie and do it all over again and add a few things here and there. It was nothing unique about it, and it kind of tries too hard to play off of the first one. There's points where they have flashbacks in the movie, which really hurt this film because then I wanted to go watch Gladiator instead of that. You shouldn't be in one movie going, I want to go see this movie they keep flashing back to because it is way better than this movie. And really another negative, and I feel bad for him, was Paul Mescal as Lucius, the adult version of Lucius. He's following in Russell Crowe's footsteps. I believe, did he win an Oscar for Gladiator, or he just got nominated? Either way, it was kind of at the height of Russell's career, like when it was just hitting stride and he was becoming the star that we know he is. And he really killed it in that role, pun intended. So here he has to follow, Paul Mescal has to follow that. And it's just, you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy. You know what I mean? And he doesn't have the same charm, the same charisma. He's kind of boring through most of the movie. I think his best acting is when he's doing the shout acting, like, okay, everybody, let's gear up and go to this side of the ship and ready and on, and he's always yelling and stuff. But when he does just the regular acting, he's kind of bland and boring. And again, when you follow Russell Crowe, you're gonna, especially when the movie's reminding you of Russell Crowe at various times in the movie, you're like, oh my God, this guy is not in the same league. And some of that just comes from the movie. Again, it doesn't have the same emotional beats to it. You don't feel the same because you've seen it all before. And that sort of falls into the next negative of the movie because of the pacing. And again, part of that is what's going to happen, but at the same time, there are moments where the movie feels like it's starting to build momentum, and then it cuts to a scene where it's really quiet and they're talking to each other about shit that you don't really care about. And then it gets back to not just the action, but just different story plots that really don't mean anything to you. The villains aren't very good outside of really Denzel Washington, but they have the two emperors that are just sort of cartoon characters running around screaming and being what you would think a Roman emperor would be like if they're on the verge of insanity. They don't have the same effect as Joaquin Phoenix did in the first movie. So yeah, I hate to compare it to the first movie, but it's doing the same exact things. And when it does it poorly, this is, what is it? The Wish version of Gladiator. This is kind of what this is. It sticks out. And again, like I said, the pacing, especially at the end, oh my God. The end, it feels like, okay, we're building up to the end. And it starts doing the stupid things that Hollywood movies tend to do now. Is it won't end. It won't let you out of the theater. I think this movie's like 2.5 hours long, and God, it feels like it's about 4 hours long. And I'm just like, end already. And then you're like, okay, this is it. We're getting to the end. No, now we're gonna have a scene where Lucius and his mom talk. Okay, now we're getting back to the end. Okay, now we're gonna have a moment where Denzel Washington and Lucius's mom are gonna talk. It kills the momentum, and by the time it ends, you're just like, God, please get me out of here. I was hoping someone would stab me through the head by the end of this movie. And I don't really understand what is going on with Ridley Scott now, because I've always liked him as a filmmaker. Like I said, the guy cannot make a bad looking film. There's no way. If I gave him my cell phone and he could take that phone, he would make a gorgeous looking movie just with that. But a lot of his movies lately are just either like the stuff he did with Prometheus and Alien Covenant, where he's just kind of, I don't know, the story isn't right, or is there something wrong in the screenwriting and the performances? Something's not clicking, and I don't understand, because early in his career everything was firing on all cylinders. I mean, you had Alien and Blade Runner and Legend, and then you get to Gladiator. He's got so many classic great movies, but now it just seems like with this and Napoleon, there's all kind of pacing issues, and maybe he's just gotten to the point where he's like, well, I'm Ridley Scott and I'm going to make this movie the way I want to make it, and this is what it is if you want me on there. And it's like, well, could you put a little more effort into the actual story and not the visuals? It would help out a little bit. So I don't know if he's just cashing checks now at this point in his career. That's hard to say, because again, the movie looks great, but I don't know how much of that is just because he doesn't know how to make a bad looking movie. So I'm a bit confused about where he's at in his career right now. And I know that has nothing to do with the review. I just thought I would say that. And since it's my podcast, fuck it, I'll say it. So that sort of wraps up the bad or the negative of the movie. Let's go into the nitpicky. And again, these are things that are neither good nor bad, just little silly things I think of in these movies. The first off, there is one. It's a bit serious, to be honest with you. I'm so happy that Ridley Scott put Pedro Pascal in this movie. It is so wonderful to actually see him getting some work now. I know he's really been struggling to find movies and television projects to get involved in, and it was heartwarming to see him on the screen again. Clearly, I'm joking for all of you movie fans out there. The Pedro, he tends to pop up into everything nowadays. And I like the guy. I think he's a good actor. He does a fine job here. He's kind of a typical Pedro Pascal character. But it's kind of getting to the point where I'm like, okay, maybe say no to a couple of these movies, Pedro. Well, let's see. My next nitpick, and this is a personal one, much following off of my last episode where I had a personal one. This one is monkeys. They have have a few moments. There's a fight scene, and I know you've seen it in the trailer where the gladiators have to fight baboons. Which I know they're not monkeys. I get that, but I'm gonna call them monkeys because fuck it, it's my podcast. Again, I can do whatever the hell I want. So he's fighting these baboons, and they're just mean, nasty creatures. And then one of the emperors, he's got this little tiny monkey that's his little servant or toy or whatever the hell it is, and it's crawling around his face. I'm sorry. I would not let a monkey or an ape anything near me. I wouldn't want to be 100 miles near a monkey or ape that's not in its cage. I have nothing against them as an animal. I want them to thrive in their environment and live, and we'll leave them alone and they leave us alone. But these are mean, nasty little creatures. Even that little monkey the guy had on his shoulder, every time it would crawl near his face, I was like, oh my God, as a human being, as an actor, I would be terrified that thing just decided, you know what? I'm gonna pop this guy's eyeball out because monkeys and they're strong as hell and they scare the shit out of me. So there's a little personal thing. Every time I saw that monkey little thing crawl, and then Denzel Washington let it crawl up on him one time, I was like, no, Denzel, don't do that. We need you. You're one of the good actors. Don't let this monkey take you from us. And my last little nitpick here, I was sitting watching this movie. And there's a point where, like I said, Lucius is a slave now, and he gets brought to the training center where they're doing like all these different things. Like he's got this old school. It's like a rowing thing where he has to pretend like he's rowing, but it's got this big lead weight took to it, and it shows all these gladiators running and jumping, climbing on these things, and people are whipping them. And this is this horrible, harsh treatment for these people that have to go through all of this gladiator training. And then I go to the gym and I realize I'm paying every month to kind of do the same exact thing. Except nobody's whipping me, unless it's a really, really good gym. But no, I was sitting there at the gym after I went to sell his wheel. I was like, damn it, there's a rowing machine. I paid to go do that. If this was a horrible treatment for that guy, for me, I'm coming here voluntarily. What the hell? The world is upside down, topsy turvy. Cats and dogs living together, mass hysteria. But I don't know. I thought it was funny in the movie when I watched that. I was like, oh, we paid good money to do that. But overall, to wrap up my review for Gladiator 2 Roman Boogaloo,
That's the joke.
I will give this thing a hard pass. I definitely would not recommend going to see it in the movie theater, although it does look gorgeous on a movie screen and the sounds and all of that fun stuff that Ridley Scott can do. As I mentioned, I mean, he can do this movie in his sleep and it would look gorgeous. There's just nothing here that you haven't seen in the first one. Much better in the first one, much more entertaining in the first one. Paul Mescal, I'm sorry, you might be a good actor in other things, but you're not Russell Crowe at the height of being Russell Crowe. So you're not as entertaining or as charismatic as he was in that movie. I didn't buy into your character at all. And you won't either. It's not worth it. Like I said, Denzel, he's having some fun. So yeah, but that could be kind of worth watching. But outside of that, you're just getting a rehash of the first movie, which was very disappointing. Even though the trailer kind of made it seem like that's what it was going to be, I was hoping maybe it would steer in a different direction, but it doesn't. It's, like I said, beat for beat, the same movie, doesn't have the same heart to it, and it's not as entertaining. I would tell you not to even watch it on a streaming service unless you just have some morbid curiosity to see what it's like. But you're gonna turn it off, or else it'd be one of those movies you put on like Sunday afternoon, watch the beginning, you'll fall asleep halfway through, and wake up at the end and be like, "Oh yeah, I saw it, whatever." I'll forget about it by the time I get to the next movie we do. But yeah, definitely just pass on this one. And I'm sorry, Ridley Scott. I love you. Your movies have meant the world to me over the years, especially my generation. Just the new worlds you've brought to us, and just the filmmaking that you have done. But God, you have got to figure out the stories you're telling and the pacing, and maybe hire better actors. I don't know. Something's got to give with that part of your filmmaking process. So again, overall, I would just tell you to skip Gladiator 2. So that wraps up everything there. If you made it this far into the episode, then I must have done something right. So if you could please, again, leave me a rating, a review, a follow, that would be awesome. Also, find me on Instagram at Cinematic Traveler Pod. You can follow me, and you can also give me your answers to the movie quote contest. On our next episode, like I said, Thanksgiving's coming up, so I'm going to try to get something out pretty quick, maybe by Wednesday, maybe Thursday. I will do a streaming surprise movie. It's still a surprise to me because I don't know what's out on streaming service right now. So I will find something and bring you a review then. And that will be your last chance to get a few points for the movie quote contest for this month. as December is quickly descending upon us. And before I go, I just want to thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast. I do appreciate you as a listener. And as you are traveling around on this blue and green ball, bouncing through the cosmos, I need you to do one thing for me. Go out there and do that voodoo that you do so well.